everyone, I'm Min.
I'm Kai.
And I'm Alicia.
Welcome back to our skincare series with Alicia. Part 2, we will be talking about unraveling marketing ploys. If you haven't checked out our first video, which was about knowing your own skin and building your own skincare routine, the link will be in our description as well.
Okay, so in this video, we'll be talking about the skincare marketing ploys as well as the importance of conscious buying. So in our first video, we talked about skincare as self-care, building our own skincare routine, and also getting to know our skin. Why is this all important?
So knowing all of this is important because now we mentioned in the first video that by knowing your skin, you know what to buy for your skin. But there is another layer to that because marketing has become really savvy nowadays. So understanding how things are marketed to you might help you decide or help you be able to figure out what is really being targeted to you and if it will actually help you achieve the goals that you've set for your skin. A really great example of this is how professionals are seen as being the above all and all, like you can trust them and they will give you like magical beautiful skin. That's not true. Don't blindly trust a professional just because they say they're a professional. For example, not every dermatologist can detect fungal acne, which is better known as 𝗿𝙞𝙨𝙘𝙀 folliculitis. And this has been admitted by other dermatologists. If they have seen like 20 cases of acne-prone skin that day, if they see someone who has 𝗿𝙞𝙨𝙀𝙀 folliculitis, which looks a whole lot like acne, they might prescribe the wrong medication or the wrong course of action that could make it a lot worse.
I have the perfect horror story for this. So when I was 17, I had really bad breakouts. I think it was because of hormonal changes, and I had it on my entire face. It was really painful. I'll show you guys a picture somewhere on the screen just to let you see how bad it was. So it was really bad, and I was 17. I was clueless about skincare. My only source of reference was really just my mom. So I was using the essentials. I was using the cleanser, moisturizer, sunscreen with the additional toner. That's all that I knew. I need to wash my face, I need to moisturize it, that's it. But for what? I don't know. So I saw a dermatologist, and this guy put me on Accutane. He also gave me a face wash, which is a physical exfoliator, and he told me to use it not once but 2 times a day for the entire year. So I was exfoliating my face 2 times every day for almost a year, and surprisingly my skin did clear up because I was on Accutane, right? So Accutane did its job. It did clear up a lot. It was very smooth. It was like wax, but it felt really tight. It was really light wax. Like it was very shiny. Yeah, it was really shiny, and I thought it was a good thing because it was very clear, crystal clear, but it was very tight, it was very dry. Like what 𝗿𝗍𝗘𝗔𝗦𝗍 said, when she lifts up her eyebrows, it hurt, right? Mine did too, it hurt a lot. But I didn't know it was problematic because he's a dermatologist and I didn't know anything about skincare, right? So it was only when my acne came back, the breakouts came back, and even worse than before, I had to take Accutane again. But I was really thinking, why is this happening when he said that it's supposed to help me, right? And I started to educate myself, really understand how skin works. And I realized that exfoliating my skin twice a day was really one of the worst things that you can do to your skin. And yeah, like what Alicia said, not all dermatologists know what they're doing, and also one more thing, not all of them have your best interest in mind.
Yeah, so coming off of that, finding the right dermatologist and esthetician is definitely not easy. And while I do believe that things like medical advice can be very helpful, as 𝗤𝗍𝗓 said, they don't always have your best interest. why would they recommend, like let's say you're going to be put on a retinol, let's say for clearing up scars and stuff like that. They might tell you to use tretinoin, which is like a $50 US like thing, instead of recommending different, which is much cheaper and is a much better alternative for someone starting with retinol. They might be selling that, and that might be why they're recommending it to you. So while they might be helpful, definitely be careful. And so like leading off of that, we've also got products that are marketed as medical grade. And so something that we have to understand as consumers is that if something is truly medical grade and can only be used by a professional, there is no way it will be over the counter. You will need a prescription to get it because there are regulations around that. So if someone is selling you something for a lot of money because they're saying if it's clinical grade, or you know, like using like medical terminology to market it, like saying it's clinically proven or any of that, it's just a marketing ploy. Yeah, just because a dermatologist or somebody with the title doctor recommends it doesn't mean it really is what they say it is. And you guys might be a little surprised by this, but even brands that are doctor produced or created by doctors, those people who say they're doctors might not actually have anything to do with dermatology. It's just another marketing tactic. For example, a lot of us I'm sure have heard of Dr. Barbara Sturm. Her brand is very expensive, luxury, medical grade skincare. She's a doctor apparently who's got your best interests at heart. I hate to break it to you guys, but she didn't actually study anything to do with dermatology. Like if you Google Dr. Barbara Sturm and look for her license, it has nothing to do with skin. This isn't saying that she's probably, like, you know, she's not good at what she does. It just says that what she's saying she's good at isn't true. And a lot of people in the beauty community have raised their questions or concerns about Dr. Barbara Sturm because one of her serums is $120, and it's a hyaluronic acid serum, and hyaluronic acid is literally a hydrating / plumping ingredient, which is in everything. It is in The Ordinary for like $10. It is in the Inky List for like $12. You can also find it for cheaper if you like browse Shopee or something and look for like a hyaluronic serum. So, you know, that brings into the question, why is it actually so expensive? Is it a marketing ploy, which in this case, yes, it is. Alright, so there are a bunch of other marketing ploys. I think the most popular one nowadays would be by influencers. We've all heard of influencer marketing, Instagram famous people, you know, we talk about the Instagram life, somebody who is showcasing a product or a paid partnership, or they're sponsored like tens of thousands of dollars to sell you. I'm going to like take a wild guess and say that majority of us don't follow skincare specific influencers because a lot of what skincare influencers post might not be what we're interested in, which is totally okay. Often when you find our accounts, it's kind of like the first post you find, it's almost as if you've stumbled into someone else's conversation and you have no idea what they're talking about. You know, they could be talking about the maths behind sunscreen and, you know, what does that mean for someone who's not interested at all, who stumbles upon a pretty picture and they're like, wow, this caption is really difficult to understand. The thing is though that a lot of influencers who do try or partner with skincare brands don't always know what they're talking about, or it's not something that aligns with them. And something you might not know is that not every influencer actually understands their value or their principles or why they're even doing what they're doing in the first place. Right now, the algorithm for Instagram has changed, so you have to have a really clear idea of where you're coming from and who your audience is in order to get some kind of success on Instagram. But before that, it was really easy to go viral. Really easy for a lot of people to see your stuff and for you to get a high following. You didn't actually need to have a clear vision on your values and what you were trying to provide to be an Instagram influencer, so to speak. So the problem here is that when these people who we relate to, who are influencers, who we happen to trust at least a little bit, or who are interested in what they're saying, when they sell those products to us, they might not be saying the right things about it or even using it correctly. So for example, we all know Kylie Jenner. who launched Kylie Skin, and many beauty gurus actually don't mind some of their products. Some of them would go as far as to say they love her toners or stuff like that. But when Kylie herself was in a video showcasing how she used the product, she got a ton of flack for it because she wasn't cleansing her face properly with her cleanser, and she was removing makeup without actually removing her makeup. She was just like slathering her cleanser onto her face, and not even for like 30 seconds I think, and then washing it off and still had makeup left over. So that's a really good example. She's got a huge following, she's launched a successful company and a successful line of skincare. She doesn't actually know anything about how to use it for herself or how to actually take care of her skin. And here's the thing, she's also got access to aestheticians. You know, she probably has a dermatologist that she goes to. These are all things that we don't see behind the scenes. So understanding that there's a lot of things that we cannot see that these influencers are sharing is really important.
Okay, so what if the influencer is genuinely like loving the product that they're using? Should we still be concerned about that?
Well, no, I think that if the influencer does love the product, then, you know, like you can trust that the product is working for them. But what you have to remember, which is not always easy as a consumer, is that it's working for them, but it may not work for you. You've got to really think about why it's working for them. And, you know, like in general, we like to think that influencers as people are trustworthy. You know, they are people who genuinely love skincare, love what they talk about, and they just want to share it. There is very rarely a strategic or purposefully malicious side to things, but there are a couple things that may impact how they choose to talk about a product, even if it's not very obvious. So I'll go into a couple of them because I've experienced some of this myself. So first of all, influencer marketing is essentially so useful because it is organic word-of-mouth marketing. Meaning it is the visual version of your auntie telling you that this product works really well, so you should try it, and you're like, oh, okay, you trust your auntie, so you're like, okay, I'll try it, you know? The thing is, because everything is on Instagram, and because it is such a visual platform and has evolved into what it is now, which is an advertising platform, which is why we're seeing so many more ads, is that influencers and influencer accounts are like really cheap advertising space. So if a brand does their research on an influencer, they'll send them PR. And PR it comes from the word press release, which is where brands used to send beauty editors things and like they would end up writing about it. Right now it's more well known as like, or its correct term is like an in-kind gift, or it is a gift. And because it is gifted, there shouldn't be strings attached, meaning whether a brand sends me PR or not, it shouldn't impact whether I choose to talk about it and how I talk about it, right? You would think that is what it is. Because if somebody gives you a gift, you have every right to tell a friend and say like, well, I didn't like that gift so much. But you wouldn't say it to that person, right? Or you wouldn't say it in a space where the person who gave you that gift might hear it. And it's the same thing with PR. A lot of influencers feel obligated to either give that review on the product, or they might feel a little bit scared or fearful to actually say their true thoughts on a product, or they might dial down how negative a review might be. And I've been in this position before, and what personally works for me is to just be very objective. Meaning if something worked out really badly for me, I need to say why. And I need to explain that it is a very personal experience, because otherwise that also brings up the issue of fairness for the brand. But anyway, there have been a number of influencers who are known to not say anything bad, or just say, oh, I love this, oh, I love this, just so that they stay on the PR list of a brand, so to speak.
So they get more like free gifts?
Yeah. Basically, so let's say if I am on the PR list of brand A and they have really lovely products that I really like, and I want to keep trying their products. And so let's say they send over a couple of things and one of them works out like really badly for me. instead of saying this was terrible, I might just leave it out altogether and not say anything about it. Or I might say, yeah, I wasn't as much of a fan of this one, but it was okay. You know, things like that. And my intention might not be to mislead who is watching me. The intention might actually be coming from that I'm scared of what the brand might do. So brand retaliation is a very real fear in like any community that actually receives PR. Yeah, so that's definitely something to consider. And then so like another thing to think about is that being on a brand's PR list is a kind of clout almost. Getting free products, say like from a designer brand, that is, you know, like in real life when people have designer stuff, they like to lord that over everyone else. It's really similar to designer makeup and skincare products. People get really up in arms about like, oh, you worked with this brand or whatever. And I was very fortunate to collaborate with Dior, but I cannot tell you how many people reached out to me saying, hey, how did you get a collaboration with Dior? Can you like send me their contact info? And this isn't like a humble brag, this is just to show you guys that people are really obsessed with it. Yeah, and you have Instagram popular brands, which are things like 𝗥𝗘𝗔𝗦𝗘, can't think of any more right now. Oh, 𝗥𝗘𝗔𝗦𝗘, Tower 28, you know. And I mean, like they all have great products. They just happen to also have their own problems. So we've talked about clout and we've talked about the problems that some brands have. So for example, 𝗥𝗘𝗔𝗦𝗘 is a really problematic brand for a whole lot of reasons. A lot of influencers have not said anything about them. They might not necessarily have actively promoted them, but they've also been kind of shady.
What do you mean by shady?
So a shady practice specific to influencers sometimes is where, okay, so coming back to 𝗥𝗘𝗔𝗦𝗘, there is another brand in this sphere of like green beauty or clean beauty, which is what 𝗥𝗘𝗔𝗦𝗘 is in. And so this brand recently launched a shade range of a concealer, and it wasn't very inclusive. So a lot of influencers started calling Alicia out, and they were saying all sorts of things. I personally found them a little aggressive, but not everyone would agree with me. And what I found interesting was after another skincare blogger who also runs her own business wrote an expose or wrote like a case study of 𝗥𝗘𝗔𝗦𝗘, which highlighted all of their bad practices, the same people who were talking about Alicia with so much like power and passion had nothing to say about 𝗥𝗘𝗔𝗦𝗘. And so for a lot of people within that community, we felt like, oh, you know, were you selling out? Did you just want PR from 𝗥𝗘𝗔𝗦𝗘? Is that why you didn't say anything about them? So that's something that's a little bit shady. And so this might not directly relate to the consumer who is buying the product, because it doesn't necessarily impact whether the product is good or whether the product might damage your skin. But it definitely influences how other people view the brand and whether other people are willing to support those kinds of shady practices that the brand itself has. And you know, like brands have a ton of practices that aren't necessarily great, like inclusivity or like exploiting creators, but you know, that's kind of like going off on a bit of a tangent.
Thank you so much for tuning in to part 1 of Unraveling Marketing Ploys. Stay tuned for part 2. We have more tea coming your way.